Hello, I welcome you today into this Friday conversation with Rev Allen. I thank God for the opportunity. This week we continue with our series, Picking Up Broken Pieces, and I know that God will bless you as we work together. I want you to know that all of us have gone through things in life, but we still have a better future to live in. But we cannot go into that future unless we are able to pick up our broken pieces, to put them together so that we are going to get a better future. And I want you to know that God wants to make us together again. Welcome.
Welcome once again, wonderful people, in our show Friday Conversation with Rev Allen. We continue with our topic, Picking Up Broken Pieces, Part 2. And we realize life can be hard, life can be tough, life can really break you down. But we are here in this show just to walk with you in this journey of picking up broken pieces. I just want to invite Rev Allen to tell us what is in this show for today.
I thank you once again. We are in this fellowship. We thank God for the journey. We are still discussing on picking up our broken pieces, and we actually want to open ourselves up to ourselves so that we may be able to learn and to walk out of the situations of life. I know that we are being blessed by the show.
Well, thank you. We have our counselor here, our psychological counselor. Can do your best. Just say jumbo to our viewers as we continue with our topic today.
Yes, hello everyone. It is a pleasure being here once again. I know it will be a good day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we have someone who will share with us his story in this show. And it's our very own Rev Allen who will take a journey of his broken life and how he picked up his broken pieces. So may we be open and listen to what he has to tell us as he has prepared his heart to share his life as an example on this show on how to pick broken pieces. Karibu, Rev Allen.
Thank you. I thank God because of the opportunity. I would actually want to say that every time you see a person in your life, they always have a story behind them. And many a times the stories may not be so good, but the stories may have made them to be good. The stories may be bad, but whatever they went through may contribute to the goodness that you experience in them. I thank God as a pastor. I minister, especially in the lines of healing. I like ministering in the emotional and psychological healing also as a need that the society requires at this particular time. I struggled with unforgiveness for quite some time, with hurting. And as I normally say and give as an example, we had problems with our father. We didn't have a very successful family for quite some time. Actually, I come from a broken family, from a divorced parents. My parents are divorced, my father and my mother are divorced. And we went through a period of almost 20 years going through that kind of a struggle that indeed ate a great bit of us. When we grew up, everything was okay, loving, a caring family, a family that eats together, a family that stays and plays together. And we grew up knowing a father and a mother. And we didn't know that you can survive in a family without both parents, or you can survive with only one parent. A father that we could trust, a father that we could run to, a father that was so much protective to us, providing for us, giving us a good and a very stable name. And actually we grew with that name, and that name has contributed so much in our lives. And things began to happen as we were growing up, and our father began to change, and began to, after retirement, he began to drink alcohol, and it's like he was caught up in it, and he could not take full charge and control of himself, and he lost it. And in the process, he became violent to our mother, violent to us, fighting and chasing all of us, scattering us. After sometimes we could not hold, our mother left us, and the divorce took place. He began to dispose of our family properties, and some of my brothers and sisters that were young were not able to continue with school. It was a lot of pain and a lot of betrayal in our lives. I remember at some point in colleges we needed him. He was not there. At some point, even in my own wedding, he was not there. He refused to to come into the wedding. It was a moment of tears, and I cried a lot about it. In my sister's wedding, he was not there. He refused to come, insulting and so many bad things around us. As a result, I developed pain and hurting and bitterness and unforgiveness for quite some time. I felt like he messed us up so much. And even my siblings also felt the same, that they were messed up by our father so much, and we could not forgive him for quite some time. We used to fight life as we were fighting him. One of the things that came out so strongly as I was growing as a result of that pain and heartache, and we call it betrayal, is I developed aggressiveness. I became so aggressive in life, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. But I was actually very aggressive. I did not trust men for fathers. Actually, I would prefer not to be so close to any father figure, because I treated them as people that you can trust them, and then they betray you. And I would prefer a mother figure than a father figure in my life. And I had a lot of inclination towards women and mothers, feeling like they need to be protected from men. They need to be helped from men. For some time, I also didn't see the necessity of putting a trust in people. If somebody that you love so much could turn like this, I didn't see the necessity of putting trust in people. Therefore, I believed in working alone. And for quite some time, that mentality of working alone ate on me. Even as I became a pastor and grew up in the society, I was having trouble working with people. I was not bad on them, but I would prefer working myself, because I knew that I'm in charge and in control of myself. Therefore, I had problem in networking. I had problem in bringing other people on board, raising them up and to work with them. And I had problem in giving people responsibilities on my behalf, because I said maybe one day they will turn against me and break it. I feared marriage for quite a while, and this one forms part of my decision to to go for priesthood. I didn't want marriage, because I saw it as a source of pain again. And when I got married, and I said I feared losing it again, and I made several mistakes as I was trying to protect myself from losing it. I feared getting children. At some point, I said it's better I don't get children, because I said, suppose I become like my father, and then I hurt my children. And when I got my children, I also overprotected them and overprovided for them to make sure that I don't do like my father. So whatever I went through informed my life for quite a while, until as I've been growing in ministry and family, I discovered that I need to pick up my pieces, and I need to go. I need to let go of my past experiences, because I could not change my past experience. I discovered that I could not keep on blaming my father, because he remains my father. I still love him. I've been looking for that love. I still love him. Nowadays, we are together so closely, but I still love him. I had to do some things so that I may love him freely. Again, I came to discover that I have to help my siblings and many other people to come out of the situation. Therefore, I have to pick mine, so that I may be able to continue in life and to journey in life, so that I may be able to be helpful to many other people. So I decided to forgive. I decided to let go. I decided to embrace the future, and to embrace what God is giving me, and to use it to build the future. And I can tell you that I am 90% in a better place. Even though once in a while I would backslide, but I am in a better place than the way I used to be before. Yep.
Thank you, Rev Allen, for sharing with us your brokenness. And I know it's been a journey, and you are speaking today with no emotions, You're speaking with a lot of courage. And I would just want to ask you a question before I bring in our counselor. Is sometimes problems come to us with no easy answers, like the problem you had with your father, the divorce, the separation. They don't have answers, and at times you feel helpless and lost in the process. So I would just want to ask you a question. What was going on in your mind at that point? What were you battling the most apart from pain and forgiveness? Were there questions that you were asking yourself?
Yeah, one, I was wondering, how is it possible for someone to deny his children? How is it possible for someone not to have a feeling, a compassion over his family? How can someone close their heart to a certain level over the people that he loved? I also would ask myself, how would someone make a decision for a family if they can again turn against that family to such a level? I also didn't know how to behave. Should I fight him? Should I? Many people would tell you, just let it be, as if nothing is happening. Should I embrace him? Should I help him when he's in need? Those were the things. How am I going to behave in this situation?
So you're in a dilemma.
A lot
of dilemma.
Yeah.
I just want to bring in Kenduywa
Yes.
and as a counselor to open up the human mind at that point.
Yes.
What goes on?
You know, what goes on at times is that, you know, it's many things. For example, what Allan went through, many things could happen. If we could have gotten maybe a sample, if it was a research, different people would have handled the same situation differently. Yes. So what was going in his mind at that time maybe was denial. He could have said, no, you know, this cannot be happening. Yes. What could have been going on in his mind at that time is that he could have tried normalizing, like, okay, this is how homes are. Yes. Yes. What could have been going on in his mind is that, you know, this man or dad is doing it deliberately. He's doing it to hurt us. He's doing it because he doesn't care about us. So as he said, that could have led to development of these feelings of you know, of hate, of anger. It could have led to development of even, you know, the fear of even having his own family. That was what was going in his mind. In fact, I would like to commend him. It's like he's known what his blind spots were. He's known what was missing in his life. He's known what was hindering him from being a good father to his children. Yes.
Thank you. So a lot goes in a human mind when they are in the process of now handling their broken pieces and in a journey. I just want to bring in Rev Allen, and I want to ask him, at what point did you decide to pick up your broken pieces? Because you've taken of a journey of 20 years.
Yes.
At what point?
At first, I didn't know that I needed to make up my mind. And at some point, I even did not know that I have made up my mind. At some occasions, I was just responding to life. Whenever I get pain, I responded. Whenever I got approval, I responded. And maybe I would say God was really on my side, because every pain that I got as a result of unconsciously fighting the void that was created by that heartache, every pain that I experienced, I took it as a learning point. And I did not change a lot because I had made a decision to heal, but I changed on how I behaved in some areas to avoid the recurrence of pain. And every time I get appraisal, I would always continue to do that good thing so that I may continue to maintain the appraisal. But when I came seriously to start ministering, I began to encounter situations like mine. People that I need to talk to them, and I've gone through the same thing that I've gone through. And I also began to experience in family, marriage, and even in ministry, some element of pain that I'm carrying. Sometimes I would see a situation and then I would break up beyond what I should, because it's like it was me going through the same thing. It was replaying in me. And I discovered that I have a big, deep wound in me. And I decided, no, I now want to confront my past. so that I may move forward. And one day God even spoke to me again. He told me that you have to confront your past so that I may use you as a vessel that was broken to bring healing. And that was the time that my realization, otherwise I was just taking good care of my children. Unconsciously and subconsciously, I was taking good care of them to protect them from what I went through. Good care of my wife to protect them from what my mama went through. I took very good care of myself to protect myself from falling into that thing. I did not handle the problem, but I was avoiding that situation. But when I began to rub shoulder with people who are going through the same, I made up my mind that I now want to move out of it. I saw the losses. I could not network. I could not trust people. I could not work with people. I didn't trust the father figures, yet I needed father figures. I said, I now want to move forward. And by moving forward, I had to confront my past. I had to make sure that I handle it so that I may be able to embrace the future.
Maybe to be very specific, what was the trigger or the turning point? Give us a case scenario that really made you that now I need to develop steps that I don't deserve this. I need to better my life. Maybe a scenario that changed you, because everybody has a turning point. Maybe somebody reaches a place they were about to die. Somebody reaches a place they had lost everything. What was your case scenario? At what point, after you encountered a lot of people coming to you with the same problem, which problem that really struck you out and said, hey, I need to handle myself?
Maybe I can mention like 3 of them.
Okay.
In my sister's wedding, I saw the pain in my family, and I saw the shame. I saw the pain, I saw the shame. I could feel the sense of betrayal that all of us were going through. And I discovered that all of us would sink if I will not rise up for them. So at that moment I said I would rise up as a father figure here and start to lead my family out of this pain and into a place of healing. And as we were driving back from the wedding, I would always tell myself, I need to do something about me. I need to do something about me. That is number 1. Number 2, I think I was preaching in one of the Sunday services. I was preaching about, I think I was dealing with heartaches in one of my Sunday services. And as I was teaching it, suddenly it was no longer teaching and preaching. I discovered that everything that I'm sharing is me. And I discovered that I am offloading them, but with pain in it. So I said, after this preaching, I am going to kneel down and I'm going to handle this pain once and for all. Another thing again, one day I was in my prayer and fasting, and God had begun to bless me, and blessings were beginning to be visible. And I discovered that I'm beginning to enjoy. One day God spoke to me clearly that you have to forgive your father so that you may go with me to another level. That was like a must from God. So in that day, I began again to work on it. Yeah.
Thank you. As a counselor,
Yes.
at what point do people realize or decide now enough is enough? I want to pick up these pieces that have been either hiding them, running away from them, or just pretending that I'm okay.
No, the point comes whereby when we decide, or when that person decides to accept the reality. Reality means that, it could have disrupted them from doing the things of their day-to-day lives. It could have taken a third party to tell you, yeah, I've seen this and this in you. I've seen the way you talk to your wife. I've seen the way you interact with the children. I've seen the way you talk to your husband. At that point is when somebody has given you a mirror. Then you see the actions of your behavior and realize, oh, this is something that I need to change. Yes, and it takes acceptance. It is like the process of bereavement where there is denial, there is anger, there is bargaining. The final one is acceptance. Before that person changes, this person has to accept the fact that this thing happened, this thing makes me slightly different, this thing or this process that I went through, the brokenness, has changed me or changed me. I have to accept that I got broken and I need to be better now.
Wow.
Yes.
So, Reverend Allan, I'm coming back to you. And I realize in your story, in your brokenness, in your pieces, when you are scattered as a family, as an individual, and also trying to be a man and trying to rise up, and you feel like you're boxing shadows, and sometimes you're throwing stones at people or things. And I know when we go through pain, heartache, we have some characters and baggages that we carry. For you've mentioned the issue of not trusting people, the issue of being a lone ranger, the issue of of sometimes punishing yourself, like I'm not going to do this, I don't want to be a failure. So maybe share with us how, we are picking up broken pieces. Now you realize through the wedding, through the preaching, and through prayer that you need to pick up this piece. And now you're picking it, and you've walked a journey that you've said 90%, you're 90% whole. The 10% you're still negotiating. And I want to ask you a question. How did you deal with those baggages and characters like mistrust, betrayal, pain, anger, and at times resentment? Yeah, how did you deal with them?
Okay. The first time these things happened, we fought it a lot. I fought it a lot. I would confront my father a lot, but looks like it was not going to change. So when it's like it was becoming impossible, I became very reckless and very, very loose with peer pressure. I would entertain anything that would come my way. Actually, would party, would do all those sort of things of that age. Then it's like I was still in denial. Then I became very sick in that process. I think maybe even the sickness was a depression in me. So when I was healed, I decided to become very religious. And that's how I went to the seminary. One, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to get children. I wanted to be a good man, a religious, a pious man. And I found myself in the seminaries. I stayed there for some time, which I responded to a vocation, but I didn't know again I was dealing with what I went through. Because if I would find a place that I would not go back to my home, I think I would have chosen that. Then after some time, after that now, I began to, once in a while, would meet with my father, and the pain would come. I would remember how we lacked food, how we asked people to help us food. Yes, yet we used to be very, very able. How my brothers and sisters are suffering, my mother is suffering. I would remember all those things. They would play to me. So I would pick a conversation with him with joy. Then suddenly I would turn into bitterness and anger. So I would actually avoid him as much as possible. I felt like relatives also abandoned us, community abandoned us. So I began to avoid the people of our community and the relatives in that instance. I moved from that level, and when I changed the religion, the faith, and I came here, and I began to minister. Actually, I was ministering well, but the thing was still in me. So first, I decided to accept that our family was broken. I made peace with myself about it, that this family is broken. It will not come back to normal, not at least now. Number two, I came to another realization that we have lost all that we have lost. We lost our home. By the way, we lost our home, we lost our land, we lost almost everything. We have lost them. And I cannot keep on talking about them at that particular time because it's not there. We have nothing. We have to move forward. I also came to accept that my family is in pain, and I'm also in pain. But I need someone must help all of us out of it. I think those are the processes that I started to work on. I discovered that the bad behaviors that I had picked, they were not mine. I discovered that it was a coping mechanism. It was a defense mechanism so as to survive. So the moment I began to accept the situation, some of the behaviors began to drop off. I discovered I'm looking for a father in these things. I discovered that I'm running away from my father using these things. So when I began to confront the past and myself, some of those things began to go away, and my passion kept on coming out so strongly every day.
So as a counselor can do your
Yes.
Reverend Allan is telling us his baggages and how he dealt with mostly through acceptance. What are some ways that people can deal with baggages? Because now you discover maybe you are very outgoing,
Yes.
very vicious, very full of life, but through brokenness somebody is so withdrawn,
Yes.
somebody is so depressed, somebody is so quiet, and you discover this is not this person.
True.
And maybe at times you meet with people and say you're not the same person we knew. As people are listening into Reverend Allen's pieces, what are some of your texts that you can encourage people as they are dealing with now garbages? People would want to trust again. I'll come back to him to share with us how he began to trust again, how he began to yield to father figures around him. As a counselor, what are some ways to deal with baggages? Because sometimes there is overeating,
True.
oversleeping,
True.
gaining weight,
True.
avoiding people, or sometimes people can be very loud.
True.
Yeah.
True. In fact, dealing with it, as you have said, some people after going, since we are talking about brokenness, after people getting broken, you know, it requires emotional healing. Before they come to this point of healing, you know, being broken will affect you. First of all, the subjective experience. So there are the 3 steps. The experience that you go through, then the emotions, your thoughts. That's why this person can be so excited, can be so dull. Others could be masking their pain by being outgoing, but inwardly they are just so broken. Others could have their behaviors changed because of this this experience that broke them. You'd find them, they would, as Allan had shared, he would, try avoiding some things. His behavior changed. To help this person now come out of the brokenness, you have to. First point is to accept, because before you accept, you'll try masking this brokenness. As you have said, some people will try binge eating too much. Others, as you have said, will gain weight. Others will not even gain weight. Others not even gain weight, they will lose weight. Others will even, engage in reckless behavior in trying to cover up their pain. So the best thing, or even coming out of it, first of all, is to accept it and address the issue head on. Some people will tend to be in denial, like, no, I'm not like that. Yet inwardly, they know they are like that. Yes.
So the main issue here is to accept.
Yes, you have
And
to
the more
accept.
you accept, you heal.
Yes.
And the more you accept, now your worldview a little bit expands,
Yes.
and you discover there are more people.
True.
Like for Reverend
True.
Allan,
True.
he discovered he's not alone.
True.
When he met more people with the same issue, he discovered he's not alone.
Yes.
Sometimes we avoid to pick the pieces. We think we are alone.
Yes.
Reverend Allan, as you speak to us, I know you're ministering and bringing people healing. I want to ask you, now, you talked about not trusting people, you talked about anger, you talked about aggressiveness, and now how did you reconcile? How did you begin to start to trust people? How did you begin to appreciate other fathers around? Share with us the process of healing, because somebody is really looking at us and is like, hey, I want to get back on my feet.
Okay, I allowed my eyes to be opened to my surrounding. When I first joined the Catholic institution, in my seasons of postulates and all the works that I was doing, I would bump into good priests and good fathers that were just embracing me without asking me anything. But since I did not know what I was going through, I didn't learn much, but I made very good, stable relationship with a few of them that began to reignite some elements of trust in me. When I came to IVC, to the church that raised me up in the Pentecostal area, Bishop Likavo received me. And actually, I would say he contributed a lot in restoring me. He received me and he began to help me without even asking a lot about my background, and began just to protect me and understand me just like that. At first, I thought maybe it was a momentarily thing, but he consistently did that for quite some time until I began to trust him as a person. But not everybody, but I trusted him. So as I kept on growing now in the ministry, especially in the ministry, and people began to give me responsibilities. And as I execute responsibilities, I discover that I'm getting approvals here and there. I discover that I have to work with some people, and most of them were fathers. And they didn't betray me, they didn't do a lot of things. The trust continued to build. Then, as a pastor and growing up and doing the work of God so well, and people began to refer me also as a spiritual father, it began to ignite something in me that I also need to rise up to the occasion. So the rebuilding of the trust to men was so deliberate. It started accidentally and incidentally, but after some times it became deliberate. And when it became deliberate, that's the time healing began to happen to me, to the level that now I can trust my biological father, the one that injured me, after trusting these other men. That's number one. Number two, things like anger. In the initial stages, it was so much. But as I was growing up in ministry, it was covered by ministry, because ministry demands a lot of things. But sometimes I would have very serious outbursts. And I went to God in prayer with the issues of anger, and also began to share it. I shared with my spouse, I shared with a few people my struggle with anger and resentment. So that's how I began to handle it. And then another thing was reconciling with my past, that I cannot change what happened, and began to be hopeful with my future, that even the things that I lost in the past, I may still regain them in the future. And when I began to share about my life, when I began to preach to people, and I would mention about my life, I began to offload them and began to embrace good virtues.
Okay. Can you, as a counselor, somebody comes to you with brokenness and we want to pick up broken pieces, where do you start to help this person? Because Reverend Allan is speaking about his journey of picking up his brokenness. So as a counselor, I walk in and I'm like, oh, I'm really broken. I have discovered I'm broken. And I ask you, how can I get back on my feet? What are some of the things from the counseling desk you can give to our able viewers as they are watching us?
Yes. From in counseling, now, when this person, some people come to you knowing already that they are broken. Others will not know they are already broken. Yes. So once they are here, for them to, to now start healing. I hope I got the question right. Yes. So first of all, they have to go through the process of grieving. Brokenness means there's some hurt, there's some loss, there's some, something that was taken away from them. Process of grieving now starts. That's why a denial will come in, like, no, it never robbed me of my joy, but later on talking like, oh, and yeah, it is true. Then it comes to anger. If someone comes, and you'll find that when someone comes, you'll find that some of them could be very annoyed. For example, perhaps Allan at one point was really annoyed with his father. He cannot, why can't he not be like other fathers? But perhaps you had some friends of yours whose fathers were very, very good in their roles of being their father. From the outward view, that is. Anger comes in. Then again now, bargaining will come in. You start saying, and yeah, lakini yako na shida, you try giving excuses for that behavior. Yes. And then after that you go to depression. Some people will be like, enyewe, this thing I don't know what to do. Yes, after that stage of depression, then we come now to later on, the last one will be acceptance, whereby now this person, after being taken through the stages of grieving, the last one has to accept. And we accept doesn't mean we are fully restored. We accept that it has happened, and there is nothing much you can do to change about the past, but we now have to go from the here and the now going forward. So as a grieving process, this person has to be made to understand, to even look into their blind spots, some places in their behaviors, in their emotional aspects that they have no idea that they exist. After that, this person will now begin the process of healing. Yes.
So, Reverend Allan, we appreciate you as you open up your life. I know it's been a journey, and it has not been easy. And when we go through these things and we share, people feel like maybe it started Monday and now it's ending on Friday. So I want just to ask you a question, or maybe an experience that people are looking at you as a leader, people are looking at you as an example, and people are like, pastor is okay, and now you're sharing a place where you are very vulnerable. And I want you to share with us, what are some of the strategies that you started putting in so that this peace can come back? I know your father and your mother are still apart, but what are some of these things that you put together for you to be whole, so that you don't fight issues that were not created by you? This issue was not created by you, just found yourself caught in between as a child or as a son. So I want you to share with us what are some of the strategies, very practical steps that somebody who is looking at us can see. I can apply this through my loss of job, through my loss of a relationship, through my loss of maybe a career, some brokenness, through emotional pains and things that people do. What are some of the tips that you can share with us? You've talked about prayer, you've talked about now you intentionally, deliberately, maybe you had the strength, but I want to look at this person who is really down. What are some of the things you can speak to us?
Okay.
Yes.
First, I realized that I still need a father's love. Up to this time, I'm still looking for a father's love. And I discovered some of the things that I was looking for. It is the father's love that I looked for. And I thanked God for the many fathers that came into my life. But I discovered that I still need to love my father and my father to love me. And I knew that it is almost impossible if I will keep on accounting for the things that happened. So number one, for me to get my father back, to love him without struggle, is to forgive him completely. To just say, I will not blame him for whatever he did. I'm just forgiving him completely. And that was the most painful process. And I can tell you, it's the process that I'm still going on with, even as at now. I have done it a very great deal of it, but I can tell you I am still having a lot to do it. I discovered that my father cannot be my father again if I still hold on what he did in the past. I only love him and express that love up to the level of my healing. I interact with my father, but I only love him and express that love to him up to where my healing is. Where I'm not yet healed, I'm still struggling to relate with him. And I can tell you, every year I count and I discover that I'm gaining ground every day. And even I want even to do better. So number one was to forgive him so that I may have him back as my father. And to realize that the part of the father that I'm not getting from him is the part that I have failed to forgive him. So if I want him fully as a father to me, it's not up to him. It is up to me to forgive him fully. If I forgive him 10%, that is the 10% of a father that I get from him. If I forgive him 99%, that 99% of fatherhood is what I'm getting from him. So it's up to me, because I still need him because he's still alive. That's number one. Number two, I stopped blaming anybody for what happened in our lives. I said, these things happened. At least I blame the devil and I blame the past. But I said, apart from that, God has caused us to go through some many good things. At least we went to school, some of us. At least I'm doing a ministry. At least I see my family, my brothers, my siblings are trying, they are doing better. And I said, we should not blame them.
True.
We should give him a chance. And we offloaded some of the burden of the past so that we may be able to move forward.
True.
Again, we discover that we are also the fathers. He is a father. I'm now a father. There's always a joke about the children discussing. We say that those uncles that we used to blame them that they are drunk and they come to disturb people at home, now we are those uncles. Our children's generation are now blaming us that, hey, my uncle is drunk, is bad. And not many years ago we used to blame our uncles. So I am that father that I used to blame in the past. Now I have a responsibility to do better than him. So I am no longer a small boy, and I cannot keep on blaming him. I am now a father. Now I need to play my role as a father in the way God wants to be. Therefore, I discover that I have a responsibility in this time, and I cannot live my life about my past.
True.
I also began to take advantage of the many opportunities of life that God is giving me to develop myself and to do the things that God has called me to do. For me, I'm a pastor. I develop my pastoral ministry. Another one is a teacher. Another one is accountant. I said my past baggage will not affect my being a pastor. I will have to do it, and I will have to do it effectively.
Very well.
But there is something again, shame. I said I have to forsake the shame of what our family went through.
True.
If I entertain the shame, I will have to live a hypocritical life and pretend that all is well. So I despise shame. And one of my slogan is, everybody has their dirty parts. Maybe mine is screaming, but others have their own.
True.
As I normally speak of a story of about another lady with a big car was telling me that they were driving with her husband and in their big car, and they were seated, another one behind and another one in front on the wheel, and then they were not talking, and they passed a boda man riding his motorbike together with his two children and his wife. Wameshikana hivi kwa boda na, and the story that was going on there, they were laughing, they were happy. And he said, maybe that boda man is admiring this family with a big car.
True.
Yet they are riding in a boda, but they are happier than us.
It is true.
And then one day, another one told me that she was driving a car. He was driving his car. And he passed some ladies that were discussing and admiring him and that car and his wife. And then he came out of the car and showed them his leg, which was very sick, and his family was very sick. And he told them, at least you are walking. Me, I cannot even walk. Even this car, I cannot drive it well. I am sick. And I said, what? Every family has their trouble, has their problem. I will not be ashamed of mine. And I will not be ashamed of what I went through, because I am not to blame. Neither is any other person to blame. I just found myself in this place, and therefore I'm going to take advantage of what I went through and begin to minister. And lastly, I began to open up in the pulpit, in small sessions, trying to help people that are going through what I'm going through. And that's how I began to pick my broken piece. If you come with my trouble, I solve your trouble, and my trouble goes away.
True.
Wow.
Yeah.
True.
So, can do your
Yes.
Reverend Allen has given us some things: forgiveness, not being ashamed,
Yes.
moving on with his calling or gifting or area of professionalism.
Yes.
What are some other things you can add on as a counselor to people who are picking up the broken pieces? What are some of the things?
One of the things that I can add on to people who are trying to pick up their broken pieces is that, be an optimist. Look into the future. Don't dwell much into what has happened. Just as Pastor Allan has said, yes, as much as he came from that kind of a home, it was his decision to say, despite of regardless of that, I can be better, I can grow. Same thing I would add and tell people who are going through a period of being broken, look into the brighter side, and look for someone who will share, whom you can share with, and who will help you out. Because at times we may wallow in pity and thinking, oh, we are doing so badly. But after sharing with someone, you find, oh, kumbe, what I was going through is not as bad. Yes, it is bad, but it is not as bad as you thought. Yes.
Okay, so you keep on opening up and looking for trustworthy people, and also not to give up, but to find and seek help. Yes, Reverend.
And maybe you need to know that you cannot change the past.
True.
Okay.
You cannot change the past.
Very true.
Whatever happened, happened.
Has happened.
But you have you can use the moment to change the future.
It is true.
If you live in the past, your future will be your past.
True.
Yeah.
But if you embrace the moment, you can change your future. It will not look like your past. And then I would actually say is that even if you don't let go and forgive, it is you is suffering.
True.
Because you are missing greater opportunities that God has given you in life. And then I would also say the people that hurt you, it's not because you hate them that you still need them and you still love them. If you are able to forgive them, you will still love them in the future. And they may become a blessing for you in the future.
Wow. So I just want to take a small break, then we come back as we wind up how to pick up broken pieces. We appreciate so much Reverend Allan for opening up to us. Being a leader, it's not easy. So after this short break, we come back with our counselor, Kenduya. What are some of the commendable things you can pick from Rev Allens Story and help people just to open up and to pick up their broken pieces? What are some of the things you can pick up as
what I picked from there? Have no shame of your experience, because at times the experience that you've gone through could help someone mend their broken pieces. Number two, look into the future. Look onto the positive side. That's what I have picked from him. Number three, it could have not been the intention, for example, of his father to do whatever he did. He could have been doing it the way his dad did to him, and according to Adam's father, it was his normal. But now in Alan's eyes, it is something different. So at times, don't apportion blame and say alifanya akijua. At times we do some things, we hurt other people unknowingly. Yes. Another thing that I've picked from Alan's experience is that our experience can also help us help other people. Yes, as the role he's playing right now as a spiritual father, when people come to him, he can identify with what they are going through because he also went through it. Those are some of the things that I picked through it.
Okay,
Yes.
now I want to bring this aspect for both of you, the issue of self-forgiving. Because when people go through brokenness, they add pain upon pain. And one of the things that people get caught up with broken pieces is the issue of unforgiveness. Reverend Allan has forgiven his father. And maybe I want to candidly ask him, has he ever forgiven himself?
Actually, it's also has been a journey. Number one, in the process of disagreements and quarrels, there are also things that I did, and after starting to forgive my own father, it became a reality to me. I did these things. I need to handle them. Number two, there are also some exchanges between us also that I sometimes I would blame myself for. So it's been a journey to forgive myself, but I actually personally would say I've done it, but it's not as easy as people would do.
True.
Sometimes you may forgive those you think they hurt you, and you fail to forgive yourself.
True.
The cycle must be complete. Yeah.
Kendio,
Yes.
what is your take on the issue of self-forgiving?
Mm.
As a counselor, we insist on forgiving the perpetrators, the people, they say hurting people do hurt.
True.
So you insist of forgiving the other part. And in the process of being broken, you break yourself and others too.
Yes.
So what is your take on self-forgiveness?
Self-forgiveness comes in through quite a number of ways. Number one, we have to forgive ourselves because of even what we have thought about ourselves. Things like negative self-talk, you forgive yourself about that. You also forgive yourself of even the plans that you had about this person. And also in terms of forgiveness, there is something called relapse. You might get back to not forgiving. Because even as Allan has shared, there's someone some years ago also hurt me, and there's a time I was driving. I told myself, I've forgiven him. Driving, it was raining. I saw him standing by the side of the road. I saw a pothole. I was like, this is a very good opportunity for him to get washed. Yes, I had forgiven him. But there is that thing that tells you, unakumbuka, do you remember? So at times also with self-forgiveness, there'll come episodes whereby you have to forgive yourself time and time again. Because at times we apportion blame that is not there. You tell yourself, why was I here when this happened? What brought me here? What was I thinking? So even in Allan's case, it also calls for self-forgiveness because at times he could have blamed himself for being brought up in such a home. Yes, so it is very important.
As you say, in the process of hurting, you also hurt others.
Yes.
It's also been a journey because there are also others who are blaming me that I need them to forgive me.
True.
And I also need to forgive myself for hurting others. As I was surviving, I hurt others. So actually it's been a journey also to forgive myself and not to blame myself. And praying if I hurt somebody that they may also forgive me. Number two, I came to discover one thing as a minister. Why can't we forgive ourselves? Sometimes it's because we don't know that we are also on the wrong. There is a tendency of self-righteousness, especially when we are hurt. We think that they are the only ones who are on the wrong. I was not on the wrong. And anything that I reacted because of what they did to me, it was justified. And I tell you, sin is sin, wrong is wrong. It's never justified, even if you are reacting. Therefore, you don't see yourself. You are self-righteous. I was the only one that was hurt. Another thing that it's hard for somebody to start the journey of forgiving themselves is pride. They wronged me, so I had to do it. So I'm so proud that I cannot acknowledge that fault line in my life. Another thing also maybe that would make people not to forgive because they don't know that they are hurt, because they don't know that they have done something wrong apart from self-righteousness and pride. It's because of blindness. Blindness will always tell you I am okay. And I want to tell you, in every battle there is always some pain, some place you played. You are not okay. You have to forgive yourself. You have to work on that journey. Yeah.
True.
Thank you. I know we have gained a lot in this show. I just want to request Mr. Kenduya to do a parting shot on this process of picking up broken pieces, some word of hope and encouragement to people who are listening to us. Then Reverend Allan will wind up the show for us with something, a message, maybe to his father and to people who are out there listening. So, Mr. Kenduya, what is your parting shot?
My parting shot is that, regarding broken pieces, we all are broken in one way or another. Number two, we have to learn to forgive ourselves, forgive someone, the person who hurt you, because at times they could have done it intentionally or not without intention. Number three, in terms of picking up broken pieces, we have to acknowledge that we were hurt. For you, as Allan just said, there is that blind spot. There is that part whereby at times we choose to ignore. Face your fears. Face this thing. It doesn't mean you really have to go and face this person, but face the reality that it happened for you to be able to pick the broken pieces. Number three, for you to also bring, number four, for you to be able to pick the broken pieces, look for someone you trust. Share with that person. Tell them, be willing to be vulnerable. Express your emotions. From that point, healing will come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kendia. Reverend Allan, what is your message through your story of picking up broken pieces?
I would say I still need my father, and my only way to get my father back, because he's alive, is by forgiving him. When I forgive him, I have him back. When you forgive that which you lost, you will gain it again. I would also say that we can do nothing to change our past. We need to thank God, because even though things might have been bad in the past, but he has preserved us to today. The future is so great and bright. If we work on now, we can embrace a great future. So don't lose your future because of your past. I would also want to say, some people did whatever they did to us because that is the only way they could behave at that particular time. So we should not blame them so much. We should thank God for the grace that he has given us, that we are able to do it better. I would tell you, God has a good plan for you. He has a good future for you. In fact, he say, my plan is to prosper you and not to harm you. Sure. May you rise up, pick up your pieces, and embrace the goodness of the future that God has set before you, and then you'll become a blessing to others. I pray that we'll become like Joseph, that the Bible says, he said, for you, you intended this for evil, but God used it for good. Make everything that you went through for good. And every situation has a purpose. God bless you.
Amen.
Wow. Thank you so much for that wonderful session we've had with our very own Reverend Allan, being vulnerable to us, speaking to us of his brokenness and how he picked up his broken pieces. We thank for the insights through our counselor, Mr. Kindio, and for Friday Conversations. We love you, and we hope that this today's show will help you pick up your broken pieces. I've been your host, Vivian Kibeu. God bless you. See you next Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.